Test, 1, 2. Test. 1. If you would like to grab a cranberry ELW from over there and turn to page 254, you are part of the pre-service music. And we are going to sing a couple Advent songs as we are waiting for Mam Fam to find their way across the street. So 254 is Come Thou Long Expected Jesus. 254. I know it's a long time. Some of you haven't had a hymnal in your hands and are not sure quite how to use it anymore, but it'll come back to you, I assure you. They are finding their way right now. Should be singing I wonder as I wander as I watch them sort of wander across the parking lot. Wander out under the stars, how Jesus the Savior did come forward to die for all ordinary people like you and like I. I've started it, Andrew. Or is it Austin, right? Yes. Yeah, we did a couple Advent songs. All right. Why don't we start?
Sounds good.
Jesus, light, Christ, you are the light of the world.
The light no darkness can overcome.
Stay with us now, for it is evening. Let your light scatter the darkness.
In your people. Joyous light of heavenly glory, loving glow of God's own face, you who sing the stars that grace the darkness, in the blazing sun of dawn, in the light of peace and wisdom, we can hear your quiet song. Love that fills the night with wonder, love that warms the weary soul, love that bursts all chains asunder, set us free and make us whole. You who made the heavens of splendor, every dancing star of night, make us shine with gentle justice, let us each reflect your light. God of all creation, gentle Christ who lights our way, loving Spirit of salvation, lead us on to endless day.
May God be with you all.
And also with you.
Let us sing our thanks to God.
It is right to give God thanks and praise.
Blessed are you, Creator of the universe. From old you have led your people by night and day. May the light of your Christ make our darkness bright. For your word and your presence are the light of our pathways, and you are the light and life of all creation. Amen.
Let my prayer rise up like incense before you, the lifting up of my hands as an offering to you. Oh God, I call to you, come to me now. Oh, hear my voice when I cry to you. Prayer rise up like incense before you, the lifting up of my hands as an offering to you. Keep watch within me, God. Deep in my heart, be burning bright. Prayer rise up like incense before you, the lifting up of my hands as an offering to you. All praise to the God of all, creator of life. All praise be to Christ and the Spirit of love. My prayer rise up like incense before you, the lifting up of my hands as an offering to you.
If you have a hymnal, and you could turn to page 528.
There are hymnals in the back of the sanctuary there on the rack.
There are some over here in the front as you came in too. If you would like to grab a hymnal, you don't need to have a hymnal, but if you like to see music, then you could have a hymnal. We don't deprive people of hymnals, especially people that are hymnal deprived. We're doing 528, Come Fill Our Hearts. 528, Come Fill Our Hearts. And we won't do the Latin tonight unless you want to. Does anyone want to do the Latin? Okay.
Et tu, Brute?
So we will just do the English tonight.
With your peace, you alone, O Lord, are holy. Come and fill our hearts with your peace. Hallelujah. Come and fill our hearts with your peace. You alone, O Lord, are holy. Come and fill our hearts with your peace. Hallelujah. Come and fill our hearts with your peace. You alone, O Lord, are holy. Come and fill our hearts with your peace. Hallelujah. Come and fill our hearts with your peace. You alone, O Lord, are holy. Come and fill our hearts with your peace. Hallelujah.
At this time, our devotional meditation this evening is about not doubt, no doubt, having no doubt.
So Zechariah was our focus last week, and he couldn't believe what the angel had told him, that his wife Elizabeth was going to become pregnant. They were older in age, and of course the angel then muted him until his son, John the Baptist, was born, and then he proclaimed the greatness of God, but was silent for, well, probably 9 months. Now on the other end of that spectrum was his wife Elizabeth. Isn't that funny? Does that happen in our lives? Maybe with our spouses, one believes and maybe one has a little bit of doubt. One is sure, one is not so sure. Yin and yang sometimes, right? But this is a good reflection on Elizabeth being quite sure. And I don't think she gets enough credit for her security in her faith. Luke chapter 1 says, in those days Mary set out and went with haste to a Judean town in the hill country, where she entered the house of Zechariah and greeted Elizabeth. When Elizabeth heard Mary's greeting, the child leaped in her womb. And Elizabeth was filled with the Holy Spirit and exclaimed with a loud cry, "Blessed are you among women, and blessed is the fruit of your womb. And why has this happened to me, that the mother of my Lord comes to me? For as soon as I heard the sound of your greeting, the child in my womb leaped for joy. And blessed is she who believed that there would be a fulfillment of what was spoken to her by the Lord." And then fast forward to the birth of John the Baptist. Read it a little bit last week. Read it again here. Now the time came for Elizabeth to give birth, and she bore a son. Her neighbors and relatives heard that the Lord had shown his great mercy to her, and they rejoiced with her. On the 8th day they came to circumcise the child, and they were going to name him Zechariah after his father. But his mother said, "No, he is to be called John." They said to her, "None of your relatives has this name." Then they began motioning to his father to find out what name he wanted to give him. He asked for a writing tablet and wrote, "His name is John." And all of them were amazed. Elizabeth knew from the start who Jesus was just by Mary entering the room. She knew that her Lord and Messiah was that baby in Mary's womb. And she trusted the angel from the beginning when the angel said to Zechariah, his name is to be John, her son is to be named John. She didn't have any doubts, at least not according to our scripture. So we appreciate, Pastor and I were looking at it, we appreciate her assurance of faith and how she boldly said, his name is John, and how she boldly proclaimed that Jesus, that baby in the womb, was the Lord. So tonight, the question is last week was, when have you gone through a season of doubt? And tonight is the opposite. When were you positive that God was leading you and that you just were sure of what was happening in your life and in your faith? And I just love that Brandy is here. And she's got an amazing story and reflection on something that God called her to do, and God is still calling her. And she has been faithful in that. So, Brandy, tell us about what's going on.
Oh, my gosh. Thank you, guys. Can you hear me okay? I am just honored to be here, and this is my home. This church, I was called to come to this church. When I met my husband, or when we were deciding on what church we were going to go to, because both of our churches were going through new pastors. And we went to Chapel Hill, where I grew up, and went to youth and did all my things. Well, there was really no youth, but I did Sunday school, and all my learning then was through Chapel Hill. And I just came to this church with him, and I was like, this is where I want to go. With youth and Jeff and just kids and Sunday school and youth group and church on Wednesdays. Like, those were things that we didn't have where I went. So this was a calling from the very beginning too. But before that, I got to start with a timeline. Hang on one second. I got to grab one thing. So it was hard for me to even think about where to start because, like I said, God has called me, I believe, way back from the very beginning. Of course, my mom brought me to church, and when I was these kids' age, I didn't really know what I was going for. I just went because she said, get in the car. So I got in the car, and I went. But the day that I needed to go, I knew when that day was. So I'm going to start with May 11th, 1990. I got to get my glasses on. A lot of people to talk to, so I'm going to be a little nervous probably. All right, so I'm going to start on May 11th, 1990. So think back, that was 20-some years ago, correct? Yeah, at least, right? So there's my timeline. My life was changed forever. I seen suffering. Once I figured out what was going on during that horrible time, I seen suffering for the first time in my life. I had never seen anything like this before. As I recovered, I was watching people suffer from all different ages, little kids to big kids to old kids to things I just can't imagine what I seen. As I recovered, a lady, I'm sorry, I was in a horrible motor vehicle accident when I was 15. And I suffered a severe closed head injury, multiple fractures, nerve damage. I had short-term memory loss. I was a freshman, and I missed a whole year of school, and I did therapy at Mary Freebed. I had a little lady who would pick me up from school. I could only go for about an hour a day. With my traumatic brain injury, I would get very hyper and couldn't tolerate stimulation. And this sweet little lady from my insurance company would pick me up because my parents had to work. And she, I think, was in her late 70s, and that was what she did. And she would pick me up at school in the office, and she'd take me to Mary Freebed, and I would stay there till 5 o'clock every day. And so that was my 10th grade in high school. And towards the end of my 10th grade year, my brain injury was pretty much, I suffered just migraines. So I was super lucky, super fortunate. My best friend Shannon Carlson, of course, didn't fare as well as I did. We just are still the best of friends. So, but I was so lucky to recover from that the way that I did. And like I said, I seen things that I had never seen in my life before. And I seen people help people. And I had so many people that helped me and told me that I could do this and that I could walk and I could run and I could get back to the way I was and that I would go back to work and someday I'd be a mother and do all these things. And at the time, you know, you think, is this really possible? But through hard work and therapy and all kinds of reminders, I was able to get back and I became a nurse. So that's where that started. So going back to being a Christian and going to church, of course, I didn't really know. I don't think that I gave myself, you know, I didn't know that I was going because I was told to go. So there was a time in my life where a lady handed me a book, and it was called Why Bad Things Happen to Good People. And she told me to read it, and I did, and it changed my life. And I remember looking at my mom one day, and I said, you know, can we go to church on Sunday? And she's like, well, yeah, and I was 16 at the time, so I didn't go every week with my mom, but she did, and she said, let's go. And so I went the next week, and the week after that, and the week after that, and that pastor, I think it was just an interim pastor, I don't even remember which one it was, but he was speaking directly to me, and I listened, and I kept going, and then I said, you know what, I'm going to be a nurse. I think I'm going to be a nurse. And so I talked to my counselor at school at Kent City, and she's like, I think you should take a class at the Career Tech Center. And I said, okay. So I went to this Career Tech Center, and a nurse inspired me there, and there I was, helping people, learning. I became a nursing assistant. I did home care for people that needed me. I've just been doing you name it since I think I could drive. So there's my path there. So now I'm going to get into the Old and New Testament because reading the Bible as I do, there's so many things in there about years and timelines and what 40 years is and what 32 years is and what 100 years is. So this is where my timeline had begun. So I feel like God was using me at this time that I was going to become one of the 3 founders of the Newaygo County Compassion Home. And how I got from Butterworth Hospital, working night shift, taking care of traumatic brain injury people that I will never forget, spinal cord patients, stroke. I've never seen anything like a stroke, and seizures, and paraplegics, and back surgeries where people couldn't walk anymore, the rehab that people would have to do for years and years and years. I did that. And I loved it. And I thought, this is my calling. I'm going to be here. And one day I thought, you know, to my husband, I said, you know, I think we should have a baby. This sounds interesting. Let's just do that next step. And then I thought, how can I go from being a mom at home to working? And I said, you know, I don't think I'm going to work. I think we'll just not work anymore. And then that was not my calling. So you're going to work, but maybe a little closer to home. So I phoned a friend up at Gerber Hospital. And she was my high school best friend, and I said, Amy, could you find me a job at Gerber in Fremont, a little closer to home? And she's like, when can you come? So I came in 2000 to Fremont, and I've been there since. So I've been there since 2000, a long time. Love it, it's my home. But knowing that I was going back to be with my best friend, who is the other co-founder, of the Compassion Home, the talk started. So we became ICU nurses. We were med-surg nurses, and they needed ICU nurses. So her and I said, let's sign up. Let's go. So we goes to the ICU, and during that time in the ICU, hospice was starting. So there was hospice agencies developing, and we were starting to see those in the hospital. So Amy and I, being ICU nurses, you saved people. You started drips. You started blood. I mean, we just did everything. Compressions. We saved lives. That's why we were going to be ICU nurses. We were going to save these people. Well, that is not so. Not everybody gets saved. Some people you can do everything possible, and they're not gonna live. So here comes my world of death and dying. And I watched hospice nurses come from Grand Rapids and Muskegon, and they would come during the end of life and talk to the families as we did like terminal weans. So we would take them off the ventilators, and we would let their bodies do their natural thing, and the hospice would help the family prepare for that. And I don't know, there was something about that just absolutely touched my heart. So as we would be training new nurses, those nurses are like, I don't want that patient. I don't want to be in there. And I would like, all right, I'll go. So I ended up being kind of like the person that on nighttime that would always go in there and do those terminal weans and extubate the patient, take the tube out of their mouth and, sit with them and pray with them. And I don't know, that was just like the most beautiful thing. And then I could go into another room and intubate somebody and do compressions and save them. But then I'd go back to these rooms and be with these people. And at that time, like, I never, ever could let somebody be alone. So still, here we are training, I think, me for the coming of the compassion home, because that's our rule there, that nobody dies alone. So backing up to my timeline here. So 2000, I come up to Gerber. Amy and I are working in the ICUs, doing all kinds of crazy things, working night shift, drips, blood. Then all of a sudden, the weaning comes in, comfort care comes to play. So I started learning about comfort care, and that is just about making people comfortable and knowing that they're going to die and that we've done the full court press. So I've always said, I'm doing everything that we can do. Doctors, everybody's doing everything we can do until a certain point. And when there's not anything more that you can do, the full court press stops and you let the body do the natural thing. So that's where the hospice work came in. That's where I started learning about hospice nursing and what that was all about. And then I seen the need that there wasn't a home for people to go to. So there was nurses before me that said, we need to have a place where our people in our community can go and get care when they're not going to make it anymore. And so there was a need even way before it even started. There was nurses talking about it. And we had this old unit at Gerber Hospital, and it was scary there. I don't know, it was just dark and it was creepy. And so whenever we had to go get chairs or wheelchairs, they would be like, who's going down that hallway? And we're like, not me, I'm not going. And so anyway, I think it was the old birthing center, but it was just really dark and dreary, and it was just cold. And everybody said, why don't we turn all of that into like a hospice home or a hospice wing where we could put people? And so there was just all this talk for years and years and years. So those nurses retired, and they're still part of us now. Mary and Mary Griswold and Mary Henry. There's just a whole slew of us. Brenda Delaney, I can at least 10, 15 people that were nurses before me that had passion like us. So the work was started, the talk was there, but nothing had gone into play yet. So lo and behold, in 2007, the third founder of the Compassion Home, Ann Hines, she moved from Muskegon to Fremont, and she came up to the ICU and was a brand new nurse. And of course, we just fell in love with her, and she fell in love with Amy and I, and we just became friends. And so the three of us one day got into a car, and we drove to East Lansing to the Mother Teresa house. And it was a home, and the Catholic Church, is it not the parsonage? They don't call it a parsonage, do they? Do they call it a parsonage? Rectory, okay. So we got online and we looked this up, and there was a Mother Teresa house, and we made a phone call, and we said, can we come visit? And they said yes. So we got in a car, and it was a blizzard. I mean, we couldn't even see going to this place, and we didn't turn around. So we just kept going. I don't know how many hours it took us to get to East Lansing, but it was hours, and we talked and talked, and we were dreaming about this home. So we get to the Mother Teresa house. We spent the whole day with them. They let us help with patients, and it was a home for the terminally ill or the terminally dying. So they take people there. It was a nonprofit. It had been established for, I think, maybe 4 years, but wasn't labeled like a social hospice home. You tell me if I'm talking too much. Are we doing okay time-wise? Okay. So anyway, we by the time that we got back home, they had already emailed us everything we needed to do to be a nonprofit. They gave us the bylaws, they gave us a manual on education. And we were like, okay. So backing up to God, talking to us, the three of us are like, whoa. We work full time, we carry the benefits, we all have kids, we all, like little kids. Like my kids were not that old when this was all going on, and I thought, all right, I work third shift, how in God's world is this gonna happen? And then we went to the Fremont Foundation, and we made an appointment with them, and the three of us went there, and we said, is there even a need for this in our community? Hands down, there's a need. We knew that. So now we're like, okay, now there's a need. Now we got people telling us, so now what? And we waited, and we waited. And then all of a sudden, we get this call, and the Fremont Foundation says, there's a lady coming up, and she wants you, coming from Grand Valley College. She's from Grand Valley Philanthropy. Her name is Brenda Spicer. And you're gonna start having monthly meetings at one of your homes, and you're gonna start talking. And we're like, all right, 10-4. So Brenda Spicer shows up at Ann's house, and there's just the four of us, and she brings this big whiteboard, and she sets it in our living room, and she just starts writing stuff down, and she's basically directing us because we're just nurses that work night shift and we don't know what to do. And she tells us we're going to start holding monthly meetings at Ann's house, and we're going to start building our network of people, and we're going to just start going. And by God, that's what we did. And before we would start any meeting, we always said a prayer, and we thank God for the people that came to us that day. And month after month, more people came, and more people came, and more people came, and the word traveled. So then we decided that, let me see where I'm at here. So that was 2011. So that was when we took the road trip, was 2011. So you can see that from 2000, now it's 11 years later. So there you get to that big timeline. And so 2011, Amy and I went to Mother Teresa House, and I have to tell you this quote. So the Mother Teresa House, of course, was absolutely amazing. And there was things all over there about Mother Teresa, because that was who they absolutely based their care on. And it said, God doesn't ask us to do great things. He asks us to do small things with great love. Mother Teresa, bless her heart. Then another one that I love, which we have two at our home, is, what I can do, you cannot. What you can do, I cannot. But together, we can do something beautiful for God. And so we kind of always just think about that as we took that trip. I have lots of stories, but one funny story is that Ann's sister was a marketer for, I think the American Heart Association or something big. I don't know I think it was American Heart. But anyway, she did marketing for this. So she was a marketing guru. So she comes to our meeting one day, and she sits down, and she's just like, what in the world are you girls even doing? Like, there's nothing, like, what are you doing? So she now is invested. So she comes the next month, and she's got things that are printed. She's got a start. She's got minutes. She's like, we need some organization. So and she turns out to be our director. So Diane Rudholm is our director. And she had no patient care experience at all. And she signed up in Muskegon at Trinity Health, or Mercy at that time, to be, I think like a sitter. She just wanted to go and sit with patients that needed, because she wanted to just be a patient care provider, which she didn't do. She was a business girl. And so now she's our director, and she will crawl in bed with patients, and she braids their hair, and she's just the most amazing director ever, and she does all of the financial stuff and all of the business stuff, and she does all of our Facebook stuff, and she's just basically spread the word to all over the United States. We're part of a social hospice network now. It's called the Omega Network, and we've just learned that there's this need, and it's not just in Michigan, but it's in every state. So we are on a mission that every state and every city should actually have a hospice home like ours. And we're helping some girls right now in Mecosta County and Big Rapids, and it's called the Maciola Curry Comfort Home. So we're going there next Thursday to see their home. They just purchased a building, and it's super exciting. And there's another compassion home. It's not called that. It's called the Tony Trish House in East Lansing. And they have also inspired us, and they've actually given us everything that we needed. They've come to our home and helped us and told us what we didn't have and what we should have. And people are just glorious and helpful. And I can't even tell you.
So tell everybody where your home is, how many people you have.
Okay. So first of all, we started out, back to the timeline. We said to the Fremont Foundation, how in the world are we going to raise, first of all, there was a building that somebody bought us. So us three girls were talking to every realtor in Newaygo County, and we were on their list, and we would go see houses after we got out of work. So we'd go see this house, and nothing just fit, and we were praying, please, we just need a home. What kind of home? Fremont Foundation says you can just do this work out of an apartment. You could just get an apartment and you could start the work. You got to do the work because the community wants you to start seeing people. And so we're like, oh, that ain't going to work. We're not working this out of a home. We want a home. So lo and behold, we get a phone call from the Alice Fenton family, and they're from White Cloud. And they said that Grandma had passed there with hospice. I don't remember what year it was. And it had been thrown back to probate. I think the family was having some disagreements, and the court awarded this home to their granddaughter. So her name is Cherry, and she's part of our board now, and she called us and said, this house is yours. Come and use it as long as you want. The family, we're going to pay the taxes on it and utilities for 1 year until you guys get up and running. So that family is still with us, and they deeded the house to us. I think we put like maybe $5,000 into it with a bunch of volunteers, and we worked 6 Saturdays to get it open before July 9th, and that's when we took our first guest, and his name was Mike King, and he was a veteran, and he probably thought we were crazy because he got there, he was walking when he got there, and he walked in, and there was 4 of us there, and we're like, basically, get in this bed, lay down, we're going to rub your back, we're going to rub your feet, you're going to get taken care of, we're going to feed you. And he was just the most amazing man ever. And of course, he passed with us along with 88 other people in that home. And it was just a simple, old-style home. It was just 2 bedrooms, a living room, a kitchen, absolutely just the foundation of where we started. And I think God, too, gave us this home. It was 2-bedroom because the building that we're in now is 4 bedrooms. And so starting with 2 patients, or we call them guests, they're our family, starting with just the 2 of them just gave us enough sense to know what we were dealing with, how much staff we needed, how many volunteers we needed. The guys in White Cloud at the VFW, they built a ramp for us. The church across the road brought us cookies. There was a guy that delivered pies on Sunday. There was a person that delivered coffee to the front porch that we never knew. It's just all these things that has absolutely just kept us going over and over. And when we didn't believe, God just provides. And we'll have board meetings. Our board is of 9, and we have a physician, we have a handyman, we have 3 nurses, we have, she's an accountant. We just kind of made it diverse, and that's what they recommended that we do. And with that, we have bylaws, and we have people that have to rotate. So I've been on the board since we opened, and I think it's my turn next year to get off the board, but I'll be a lifetime member because I'm a founder. But bringing in new blood and new young people, it is so fun. We just had a huge fundraiser. We just do 1 fundraiser a year. And we raised over $44,000, which was the biggest, and that's enough for a year. We can supply our staff and our electricity and all of our stuff like that. So we work with hospice agencies. We're just a shell of a home. So it's like your home, my home. I've cared for my grandpa when he was home with hospice. Of course, we had aunts and uncles and everybody that came in to help us. And these people that we take care of sometimes don't even have families. So we are their family. When they come to us, they get a quilt that somebody made for us. They get to pick out a quilt. They get to pick out a room. We have this home that, I'm going to say some numbers now because this is out of my league. But they told us the building needed $500,000 of work to make it functioning. So the community didn't want us to take it down. They wanted us to restore it, which needed basement work, foundation work, which we did. So it's beautiful, it's comfortable. There's a kitchen, a living room, a chapel, a med room. In our house in White Cloud, we would bring the bodies through the living room, down the corner, it was just like the carts wouldn't even fit in there. So if you have anybody at your home and you have to have, the funeral homes come to your home, sometimes it's a fun way to get out. But we designed it so that the carts could fit through, and we made it just absolutely perfect and beautiful, and I would love you all to come and see it. You can. We take volunteers. We have greeters that come, and they might only come for 2 hours, but the place is always locked because we have lots of medications in there with hospice. So your morphines and your Ativans and things like that. And there's usually just one person there that is running the ship, and there's the director, and then of course all of us stop every day. So there's always lots of help. And then our goal was to teach students. So we have Baker College students. We work with the Baker College girls and guys, and they get a choice where they can go, and we have never not had a student with us since we opened. So it's fun when they're in a session. They come and they give us hands, and they learn end-of-life care. And they all just give us great reviews, and it's super fun. We did dinner on the deck one year to thank our people. So all of us board members and our spouses, we provided meat and food and entertainment, and we just doted on our donors. So how this is supported is through donations. It's a nonprofit. We do fundraisers. We write grants. Memorials are really big, so people that pass the memorials. I can remember John saying to me, who gets paid for this? Like, I said, well, and my dad has said that, and you just don't think about a nonprofit, and I didn't really realize that either, what a nonprofit takes, and when you see nonprofits, what goes into them and becoming it. So it's an ongoing mission. So I think 200, I get texts every day when somebody passes. If it's daily, it might be a while, but I just got a text last night of a beautiful family. I got a picture this morning at 6:30 in the morning, and there's 4 hands and 4 women. So there was the 3 girls and their mother, and they had the 4 hands on there, and the daughter just sent us that picture and just said how thankful that she was that her mom could be somewhere where she was comfortable and calm, and she didn't think this place existed. So I think as my timeline, I've been talking about this, since 2010. However, there's people that do not know about the Newaygo County Compassion Home. So I always tell people. We take people from every county. We took a mother from Cedar Springs once that was in her early 40s. We've taken people from Big Rapids. We took a young lady that was brain dead. She was 17 years old from El Salvador, and we got a call that said that she was at Butterworth Hospital and they were taking her off life support, and could we manage her? And she had a trach. And so our staff is just common. They're not medical people. They're just volunteers, basically. Like we have 5 paid staff, and of course we do care. And they said, Brandy, can you come? And I said, I'm on my way. So I taught the girls. We have a portable suction, and she was the most beautiful young woman I've ever seen before. And her mom made it from El Salvador before she passed. So it doesn't cost anything. It's a completely free service.
Brandy, you are not a nervous speaker. Did you know that?
I feel like I am shaking.
You just have I'm like, what does she mean? She doesn't know how to speak in front of people. You've been going at it pretty good there, and I do want to honor people's commitment on time tonight.
Absolutely. I didn't know how long I could talk.
Was there anything you wanted to fit? I hate to ask, but is there anything?
I don't think so. Does anybody have any questions?
Is that it?
Anybody have any questions?
Let's ask questions after if they want to, and we'll get people going.
If
here.
if you want to know how to support and help Brent, just talk to her afterwards. And
let's just jump to the Lord's Prayer here. Lord, remember us in your kingdom as you taught us to pray. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory, forever and ever. Amen. So we'll do the blessing. Let us bless our God. Praise and thanks to you. May God Creator bless us and keep us. May Christ be ever light for our lives. May the Spirit of love be our guide and path for all of our days.
Amen.
That seemed like a fitting closing to Brandy's talk today. I should have had you preach is what I should have had you done.
You know, I want to close by saying this. Brandon, she's told me about this home for years, and you can see her passion in the Compassion Home. And she told me God was at the beginning of this, leading her and guiding her, and God is still at the heart of what they do, and they pray every time they get together. And that's why I wanted Brandy to talk. And gosh, you could keep going for hours, Brandy, but thank you for all you do.
I was the one who...
Yes.
So if I can have some candle extinguishers take care of the candles for me, that would be great.
Hey, we'll be back. We'll be back here next week. Should be able to start right at 7 next
and then
week.
The week after is Christmas caroling.
Week after, we'll have a quick pizza dinner and go Christmas caroling. Please, all hands on deck for caroling. We might be, if we can make two groups.
Help with the candles?
We'll definitely go to, well, we hope to go to Meadowlark. I'm waiting to hear back from them. But we'll hit some shut-ins and bring some joy to some of our elderly members who don't get out anymore. So we'll see you guys next week. Yeah, let them blow them out, guys.
Well, get them.
Oh, Brandy, your passion, your heart just comes shining right. Yeah. That was... Good thing we don't have any fire extinguishers or... Me too. Who cares? I gotta remember I need to stick the boom down here so I can...
I thought you'd have Allie.
She wasn't prepared tonight.
Oh, but she did it last Wednesday.
Yeah. She was with friends tonight. Yeah, this thing's every week, yeah. Mike, what's next week? Your mom's coming to get you here in a little bit, but we'll go back across.
That sounds so fun.
Tell Brandy. If you're still hungry, Lynn, if you are hungry, there's still food, is what I'm trying to say.
We practicing tomorrow?
Yeah.
Time.
I'm playing at 6.
Do we know that one song? Was one of them in it? What was that? Shut the power amps down. Get the power amps and the